everybody, it's Marty. It's Friday, the last Friday of April 2017, and I am in my yoga shack. If you've seen some of my videos, I do some of my yoga stuff in here, meditations and yoga poses. I'm starting to post them online, so if you're interested in some of that, please check it out. It's something that's helped me in my life as a woman of transgendered experience. Anyways, I'd like to talk to you today about it's a difficult subject to talk about. I think anybody that personally talks about themselves online is very brave, and I think it's very important for transgender people of all experiences to talk, to get it out there, because that's the only way we're going to get help and figure it out. Because I know there's not too many 55-year-old trans women that I can talk to that, you know, started their transition in their teens. Anyways, I just wanted to talk about my own experience, just so that people aren't confused about my channel, and so that they can have an honest, I can give them an honest look into what my path was. I'm not going to get into the colorful details, of course, but you can wait for the sum of my parts, my book that I'm writing. That's got a lot of comedy and tragedy in it. So anyways, I ran away when I was 14. Started running away when I was 14, 15. And I ran to the big city when I was 15, and started the path of living authentically as a girl. And even prior to that, luckily, I was very, very effeminate child. So whenever I left my house, people just treated me as a girl. So, which I learned at a very early age that it was easier just to go with that. And I was kind of questioning what gender was and everything too, like everybody does. And I remember feeling really sad in grade 3 or 2 when the boys went this way and the girls went that way, and I was just like, why is everybody breaking up? Why do we have to like divide? I remember feeling really sad. It was weird. And but anyways, so anyways, when I always was found out that I was an effeminate boy in school and stuff like that too, it caused a lot of problems. And but luckily I was in the theater and did a lot of child theater stuff and whatnot. So I luckily was around gay people and stuff like that too. So I felt at home, and I felt I felt that there was people that understood, and for some reason I knew I just had to grow up and get out there. But I grew up on the prairies, so it was really scary. Prairies of Canada, so it was very conservative, and so I knew I had to really be stealth. But luckily I was born in 1962, so when I was, you know, growing up and exploring like 12, 13, you know, David Bowie was happening, Ziggy Stardust, all that stuff, so everybody was androgynous, so I just thank God for that, because I was everybody had long feathered hair and had the shirts that were kept long, you know, with the jeans, and you could have them outside your shirt. So I was able to just kind of blend and just be, and luckily the hippies were, you know, had happened, so there were still groovers in the prairies and stuff like that too, so they kind of took care of me. So that was kind of the way it was, and I ran away to find out, because I knew I needed to physically change and figure out how to do that. And I met a lot of runaway kids that would migrate from the West Coast into the prairies in the summer, and so I ran away with them. fall winter, and started my transition. I started finding out, going to doctors and going to endocrinologists, and they found out that I had very low testosterone levels, so it was kind of overkill for me to like take certain things and stuff. So if you're new, like make sure you go to endocrinologist and get it all checked out, because what one trans person takes, another person doesn't, or another person should take something else. Because it was really overkill. A lot of people that were very fair and feminine, like me, went really overkill with hormones right away, and a lot of them died from cancer. So it's much more smart today, but you need to have that medical, somebody walking through your hand medically, like to find a really good endocrinologist. So I was on a very minimal amount of hormone, which was great. I was lucky. I used to say I was blessed with the curse. And now today I just kind of just go, okay. Well, I guess it was kind of like back in those days. But for me, I lived, by the time I was out of my teens, I'd gotten my nose done. That was the only thing I had done on my face. I had it just thinned out a bit. And looking at old pictures now, it's like I'd keep it. I actually have it on the cover of my book. If you go to martypants.com, you can see what the cover is going to be. That's my old nose. And I'd actually would have kept it, but everybody was into aquiline thin then. And then I got my boobs. Everybody's getting their boobs. Girl, get your nose done and your tits. That's what everybody would say. All the girls on the street would say. So well, that's what I did by the time I was, 18. And then I started going to check out bottom surgery by the time I was 18, and I found them very, luckily by happenstance, I found doctors, and in Canada it was in Toronto, and just by coincidence that evening I met a transsexual woman that had surgery by this person, and she was not stable, and I was in a club and she dragged me to the bathroom, and I don't know why transsexuals, after they have their vagina, they always want to like show it to you. It's like, I've never done that. I don't know why. Well, maybe I've done it maybe to a couple really good friends, like later, years later, but I was horrified with what I saw, and I came back and I was dismayed, and my sister told me just to wait until they got better, so that's what I did. I just waited and waited, and then in my 20s, my addiction and everything started to really escalate, and I was working in the survival sex industry, and I actually worked in escort services, and the money being who I was as a special, trans girl, non-op as they call it. And I used to say it's between your ears, not between your legs, which is true. It is true. And but all of a sudden, I was the most desirable woman in the sex industry. Like, men were just paying like gazillions of dollars like to be with me, and so that got addictive, and that became more of an addiction, and yeah, it was really intense. It was really intense, and it just fed my addiction, my drugs, my money addiction, my more addiction, more, to the point that I hit the wall in 1991 and almost died, and a lot more stuff went on, but I won't get into it because we're just talking about this. So I basically lived non-op until 1991, and then luckily when I got into recovery, and I live in Canada, in Vancouver, the government had just allowed it to be paid for by medical, and I was the first person that they officially sent down to Dr. Toby Meltzer in Oregon. He's in Arizona now. Hi, Toby, if you see this. And I couldn't be happier. It's like they were doing microsurgery. They were doing like stuff that was just mind blowing. So that was my path. And after that, it was just such a relief for me. It was such a relief. I didn't even realize what a relief it was until it happened. I realized that I was holding so much on my shoulders. And, when I woke up that morning, I realized it was like a whole shelf had been cleaned off of my psyche. And I just didn't have to give a flying fuck anymore about, going into a sauna with my girlfriends and just taking my clothes off and just being whatever. So, it could have been a different scenario if I was born, 15 years later, because I see a lot of kids, and I had a learning curve to learn about non-op and gender fluid and all that stuff too, because my God, it's like, I'm 55. It's like, in 1991, I came into recovery and I just, worked and was in the world and, dated heterosexual men and, I just, that's another thing too. It's like being non-op downstairs, like the men that desire that, it's a whole different breed of men. And sure, it's like I was common law with somebody that loved heterosexual women too, but it was kind of like the delicacy, and I just did not want to be that. For me, it's it was painful for me to just I was actually repulsed with downstairs. For me, and maybe it would have been different if I grew up like in a bigger city and I had cool parents. So it's like, maybe I would have been gender fluid. Who knows? It's all relative, right? So anyways, I'm just trying to just say that, this whole trans umbrella thing, for me, it's like when you hear people say I'm transsexual, it's like a lot of older women just think that have had that. It's like, and they still say, complete sex change. I was talking to a girlfriend I hadn't talked to in like 25 years last week, and she's going, oh, she's a sex change girl. It's like, rather than, and then the other one was like, oh no, she's like, she's a tranny. It's like, meaning that they didn't have the surgery yet, because that's where people's brains are, and it's like people that aren't on social media. So, I had to gently tell her, where we are in life, and, and societal lingo and all that stuff too. So it's so important to, even I had to get educated. It's like, but for me, it's like, dating and getting married twice in the last 12 years has been beautiful and full of its stuff, and even the best relationships are hard. And like I've said in other videos, both of my marriages have been with heterosexual men that were, when they saw me, they were open to having dialogue with me, because everything matched with what they desire, type of thing. And if I would have had, if it would have been before, and I would have been non-op down there, it's like it wouldn't have worked for them, and that's just the way it is. Everybody has their own sexuality, right? And preferences. So anyways, that's me. So I know what it was like to be really objectified as a non-op downstairs person, and it's nice to see that there is dialogue out there, and the men that fetishize, that used to fetishize all the time, there's actually men growing up that actually are open and loving trans women like that, and trans men the opposite way too. Because back then it was just all fetish. It was just, it wasn't called, people that dressed up weren't called, they were just transvestites. They were dress-up dates for us kids when we were kids, on the stroll. Yeah, so just a little bit more information about history, about where we all come from and where I fall into it. So if you have any questions or comments, if you, whatever experiences you had or are going through, I know it's tough out there. I don't live in the city anymore. I live in a suburb of a smaller city on the island. I couldn't imagine. I talked about that before, about I did the dating scene as a trans, young trans, non-op downstairs, and it was completely sexualized all the time. But you know what? The whole world is like that in the big cities. Like, I have cis girlfriends that go through the same stuff. There's players and everywhere. So we all just gotta grow up, all of us. And that's what I'm doing too. So anyways, namaste. You have a wonderful weekend. Just thought I'd post this, and thank you for letting me share and be part of this cyber social evolution that we're putting out there to the world. Okay, bye, love you.